This game was played on March 29th, so today is the anniversary of this game. Today's March 29th, 2024. This game was played March 29th, 1959. I'll warn you in advance, this game gets ugly around move 30 because the players both got into time trouble. And in the time trouble, they did not play the most pristine chess. And as mentioned, Bobby has not started this tournament well. We are in the 6th round, and Bobby's only won one time. He's had a few draws, but he's only won a single time. He's lost twice. He's drawn twice. He's won once. Rodolfo Redolfi. How'd you like to have that name growing up? Rodolfo Redolfi. Rodolfo Argentino Redolfi. He was born May 25th, 1928. He passed away December 2nd, 2013. He was a 10-time Cordoba province champion. 10 times he won the Cordoba province chess championship. 1952, 53, 54, 56, 57, 59, 60, 72, 79, and 1988. It's 10 times over the course of 36 years. We have e4 and c5, a Sicilian defense, knight f3, pawn d6, and Esteban Canal's attack. Esteban Canal. Canal was born April 19, 1896, passed away February 14, 1981. Esteban Canal was a leading Peruvian chess player who had his best tournament results in the 1920s and 1930s. Canal was born in Chiclayo, Peru. He later lived in Italy. He died in Varese. Now, the most famous game by Esteban Canal is known as the Peruvian Immortal, and it was at a simultaneous exhibition in 1934. In only 14 moves, you've got to look up this game. In only 14 moves, Esteban Canal sacrificed both of his rooks and his queen and finished the game with a Boden's checkmate. The Peruvian Immortal. Check it out. This is Canal's attack. Esteban Canal. Bishop d7 is the main line. Bishop takes the bishop, check. Queen takes the bishop. And here knight c3 is not the usual approach. Normally white castles here, and knight c6 and pawn c3 here. Knight f6 showing the book line. d4, knight takes e4. d5 hits this knight, which moves to e5. Rook e1, attacking along the e-file. Knight takes the knight with check. Queen takes the knight. Knight retreats to f6, and this pawn comes to c4. This is known as Haag's Gambit, H-A-A-G. And to be honest, I'd have to look up Haag. This move here is Haag's Gambit. I'd have to look up Haag in my book, if he's in my book. Let's find out. Let's see. He is not in my book. He is not in my book. Haag's Gambit. H-A-A-G. Not H-O-G, like a pig. Let's see if I can get any information about Haag. There's several Haags in my database. Erwin Haag, Gregor Haag, Martin Haag, Wolfgang Haag, Ulrich Haag, Russell Haag, B. Haag, and Marcus Haag. I would assume Erwin Haag. Erwin Haag won at Debrecen in 1961, co-author of the work on the Petrov's defense, became an international master in 1960. He was Hungarian, lived from January 11th, 1933 to October 23rd, 2018. He was also successful in correspondence chess, having won the Hungarian Correspondence Chess Championship. He also wrote a book with Giozo Forintos. Besides Petrov's defense, he wrote Easy Guide to the Knight GE2 King's Indian Defense. Erwin Haag, H-A-A-G. Haag's Gambit, right here. That line continues. I'll just show it again real quick. Knight takes e4, d5, knight e5, rook e1, knight takes knight check, queen takes knight, knight f6, and c4. Let's go back. Knight c3, played by Redolfi. Knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, pawn g6, kingside castles, bishop g7, bishop e3, knight f6 right here, pawn f3, kingside castles. Stayman USA subbing for the 39th time. Queen d2 here, queen's rook to c8, queen's rook to d1, king's rook to d8, rook to f2, knight back to b8. Quite an unusual move, knight b8 here. Knight to e5 is much more principled. And of course, that threatens to play knight to c4. But mysteriously, Bobby plays the knight back to bed. b3, d5. I desperately want my knight to go back where it belongs. I can't stand that knight on b8. d5, knight takes d5, e5 hitting the knight recommended. Knight takes the knight, pawn takes the knight, queen takes the pawn, c4 hitting the queen, queen c5, dangerous move in line with the enemy bishop, rook ff1, pawn a6, queen f2. So the bot calling for the knight. Really? I see. That's remarkable. That's a discovered attack. That is incredible. Wow, that's complicated. Well, first of all, we can rule out rook takes queen, right? Right. Because bishop takes queen, and after rook takes the rook, knight can throw in a check here. That's Forcosaurus Rex. And after the king moves, then this rook will capture this rook up here. And you cannot play rook takes the bishop. You'd have to play rook e8. If you play rook takes bishop, then rook d8 check. And you're losing a piece because your only legal move here is to block. I take with check, and then I win your knight, and I'm up a knight. So coming back, you couldn't take the queen there. We're showing the line if he would have found the discovered attack on the queen. For that reason, black would have had to have played queen takes knight, and after queen takes rook check, rook takes queen, rook takes rook check, and he's still picking up this knight. Bishop blocks, rook takes the knight. And it's two rooks against a queen. Well, the eval bar says that's dead equal. So that's a pretty risky move to get two rooks for a queen. Queen f2 was probably the better part of valor. Queen a5 gets out of this bishop's line of fire. h3, right? So the purpose of f4 is to vacate the f3 square so that you can put your knight back on its optimal development square. He also might be eyeballing f5, but h3 was Rodolfi's choice. Queen c3 right here. The bot calling for rook d7. Knight d7 was my preference with knight f6 in the works. But queen c3, rook c1 gets the double question mark. That, oh man, I need to bring out Captain Blunderpants. Now, why is that a blunder? There's a tactic here, ladles and jelly spoons. Look at this piece relationship. There's a tactic along this diagonal. Do you see it? That's right, logique. Queen takes the bishop, and after queen takes the queen, you're getting your material back with interest after bishop takes the knight, pinning the queen to the king. So after takes, you emerge with an extra piece in your pocket. The great Bobby Fischer missed this tactic and played queen a5. So that is also a Captain Blunderpants, I suppose. Or perhaps a blind caveman because he didn't see it. Right, a sin of commission answered by a sin of omission. So reciprocal blunders. The rook C comes back to D1 here. Rook D6. I'm still looking for knight D7, knight F6 myself. Rook D6 was played. Pawn F4. Knight C6 being played here. Knight takes the knight, and Rook D takes the knight. I was about to say I'd rather take it with my other rook. You want to maintain control of this open file. There's no need for Bobby to surrender the D file to his opponent. You probably can even just take it with the pawn, although that isolates some pawns. But the point is we maintain our share of the open file, and if he takes, we can take here, and we should be Jim Dandy. To me, though, preferable is to take with the rook, and then if he wants to trade rooks, I'm okay with that, and my queen can come back here behind if I so need. What if C5? Right here, is that what you're talking about? Well, then I guess I have to trade rooks, don't I? So that's a good point. He ends up with this diagonal anyway. But maybe I can just do a wraparound or something. All right, anyway. Rook D6 was played. Rook D7. Now, Rook C6, C7. B5 apparently more appropriate. Right, just move the pawn away from the attack of the rook. Rook 6 C7, Rook FD1. Rook D5 hits the queen. That buys a move because you can't let this bishop. Well, that bishop might be coming there anyway. Yeah, it might be coming there anyway. But the point is, I was going to say you have to move here, but maybe you could just play Queen C3. I know if you play Queen C3, I'm definitely playing Bishop B6. So, okay. No, keep doubling your rooks. All right, coming back now. Rook FD1. Bishop F6. The bot says just trade rooks. Trade rooks here. And then play B5, I guess. Yeah. Bishop F6. Rook D8 check. If I take... No, that's catastrophic because this is coming here, remember. So I cannot. I lose material. So King G7 was played. If you take, that is going to be catastrophic, right? Game over. King G7 is the correct move. Bishop B6 anyway. Queen B4. Bishop takes rook. Rook takes bishop. Rook 8 D7. Redolfi wanting to simplify, Rook C6. King H2. Right, if you want to simplify, why not play Queen D2 and put the question to your counterpart? But King H2 was his choice. B5, Rook B7, Rook E6, Rook D2. Again, a good chance to simplify is to put the question to this rook. You know what might be cheeky, though, is a move like this. This queen becomes overworked. You can't take my bishop and defend your rook. It'd be fun to try. Well, doesn't matter because Rodolfo played Rook D2 here. Queen C3, C takes B5, Queen A1. By the way, it was like right back. It was right about here when the players were already in time control trouble. Their clocks were already running low on both sides. So you're not going to see the most accurate moves in the next 10 moves. Rook E6, Rook D2, Queen C3, C takes B5, Queen A1, and of course Fischer playing some desperate moves here. I mean, right, pawn takes the pawn is probably your most resistant hope, but you're going to give up a pawn. White has two passed pawns, then you can still play Queen A1 over here. But Bobby with Queen A1 right away, pawn G3. So same thing, why not capture this pawn and you're threatening to push on forward? It's the simplest route he's forced to take here if you do that. Maybe if you want to keep it complicated, since there's time trouble, maybe play B6. But Redolfi was in time trouble himself. I get a star for that move. And this can become very complicated. You're still going to see this rook come to e1. Probably rook b d7, getting out of the pawn's way. But yeah, we've got rook h1 check, and it could get complicated. And my idea is to try to open up this diagonal here, right? It would be catastrophic, wouldn't it, for him to take? Now, simplest is probably to push your pawn. But let's just, this is for instance, this is what you try when you're desperate and people are low on time. Right? But anyway, g3 was played. Bishop c3. Same thing. He still hasn't taken this pawn to keep fighting. Same thing. Same thing. Rook d3 makes... Oh, yeah. Put your pigs on the 7th. That's also going to be really strong. Rook d3, rook e1. This is another chance to play pawn takes pawn here. But again, he's in a desperation mode. And again, they're both really short on time. Well, white finally does take this a-man, and a7 is looming. Rook b1 is quite curious. And the bot calling for queen b1, hitting this rook, I guess. But that gives up that bishop. I don't know. If I'm white, I'm happy to see that move. And then queen e4, I guess? Yeah, you're lost, though. In fact, if I'm white, I'll just give up my queen here, right? And play... Because how are you going to stop this pawn? So I'll just defend the second rank, keep your queen from giving me check, and there's no way to stop my a-man. Game is over. Well, rook b1 was played. Rook b d7, bishop b4, pawn a7 now. That's hilarious. He missed a very easy simplification. This queen has only one path it can move on, and guess what? This king is in line with this queen, which means this queen can fork the king and the queen and force a queen trade, and that simplification will be decisive. He missed queen d4 again in the horrific time trouble, and it's forced, and that will be an easy win from there. Instead, a7, very much in a hurry, and Bobby, with the most amazing swindle, played bishop c5, hitting the queen. One more move to satisfy the time control. His flag is just about to fall. He sees that there. He sees that's undefended, so he takes it. Oh, just before his clock ran out. But it's a self-mate, isn't it? 'Tis a self-mate. Before we show the checkmate, let's look at the alternatives here. First, if white promotes the queen, bishop takes the queen, and I can force at least a repetition. So, for example, suppose queen to g2. Don't get greedy, white, or you are mated in the same way as ever, because bishop g1, and it's just going to be a forced mate from there. So you'd have to play your queen here to defend against any checkmate threats. And now we can play bishop g1 and take the repetition, force the king in front in line with my battery, and then simply repeat the position until it's drawn. So that's what happens if he promotes his pawn. Now, the bot called for queen g2. On queen g2, I still play bishop g1 check. I guess white can give up his first queen here, though, because after rook takes queen, he can now make a second queen. And the eval bar is favoring white, but less than a full point. So they're still fighting this game for black, but it's not as decisive as this time blunder, queen takes c5. Now, what did Bobby play? Right here. And of course, white resigned. Why did he resign? Well, there's only one legal move. And this is checkmate. Rodolfo being swindled. Now, that had to feel good for Bobby because, don't forget, just the round before, he had an equal game against Letelier and threw that equal game away. So he lost a game he should have drawn. He won a game he should have maybe drawn at best, but probably lost.